days ago because Hurricane Arlene was in full cry, literally tearing across the Bermuda Triangle. Now it's hot and humid as we await the start of the International Triathlon Championship. There's a really strong lineup, big British interest as well, but what a tricky course awaits them all below me. Alright, and let's take a closer look at this outstanding field. We have champions gathered here from right across the globe, from Australia, America, Canada, Brazil as well. They've all come to this beautiful island of Bermuda, confirming really the sport of triathlon is catching on like wildfire. The breathtaking Southampton Princess Beach Club, focal point for this inaugural International Triathlon Championship. For it's from here that the world's best triathletes take to the coral waters for the biggest purse offer in the Western Hemisphere. The triathletes will leave the beach at 7 a.m. They swim out along the coast, then turn south out to the reef. At the second buoy, they turn back to shore, completing the triangle, a distance of 1.5 kilometers. Then Act 2, the 40-kilometer bike ride. The road follows the island's coastline east and then doubles back on itself past beautiful ocean view properties and traditional British architecture. The problem for the triathletes, surely the narrowness of the road, causing drafting, which has been the cause of disqualification in a number of previous triathlons. Now, drafting is simply a word for taking shelter behind another rider. It caused the disqualification of top riders at the World Championships in Nice last year and the Ironman in Hawaii. Drafting is the sport's biggest single problem. Bermuda isn't flat, far from it. The course has some very severe hills where bikes will be travelling at over 50 miles an hour. As a result, the island's speed limit had to go, and so did Sunday morning mass being moved to Saturday night. For race day, the island had to be technically closed. Then Act 3, the run, a distance of 10 kilometres crossing the island to here, the Killer. This steep final hill where the champions will rise or fall. Once at the peak, the finish line awaits, and so does half of Bermuda. As for the cast, it's simply the best in the world. Scott Molina from the US, the biggest money earner in the sport. Californian Dave Scott, 5 times winner of the Hawaiian Ironman. Mike Pigg, the new star of this triathlon circus. Mark Allen, the 1986 Triathlete of the Year and 5 times world champion. Scott Tinley, 1985 Ironman. It was the gang of 4, now it's the gang of 5. In the women's race, there's New Zealand's Erin Baker, undefeated in 2 years. Kirsten Hansen from the US, winner of the 1986 National Triathlon Championship, and then the 2 glamour girls of the circuit, Canada's Punches twins, Sylviane and Patricia. Linda Buchanan, the most successful triathlete in the past couple of years. Colleen Cannon, who's been a pro triathlete for 5 years, and she won Nice in '84. The best triathletes in the world, all here in Bermuda. But what about tactics?
In this kind of course, you're going to have to go hard in all 3 sports, swim, bike, and run, to even place in the top 10 in the women. Because the women here this is the best women's field I've ever been in my life. I mean, there's everybody here.
But what about Erin Baker? Can she hold on to her undefeated crown?
I think it's a great course. I think it's a strong course and a tough course. So I think it's a course where you can definitely sort of do your own thing, and I think there'll be room for you to put distance on other people if you're a stronger runner, or biker, or whatever. So I really like it. I think the whole course and event will be great.
Dave Scott has worked out his tactics, and he's come up with a very clear battle plan.
But it's definitely going to come down to the run, and I understand the run is pretty challenging. A lot of little bumps.
The New Zealander Rick Wells has no worries about the choppy Atlantic seas.
No, I'm actually from a swimming background, so the rougher the better. So I've got a very good chance, and I'll put the boys through a bit of pain, hopefully.
So what we have here really is a who's who of triathlon, an absolutely brilliant field, and joining me to discuss it, CJ Olivares, Associate Editor of Triathlete magazine. CJ, what a great field, but who's going to come through?
Well, I think you've got a couple of people who could do quite well. Rick Wells could come out of the water strong and get out of sight on the bike. If that's the case, it's going to be tough to run him down, but if there's anybody who can do it, I think it's Dave Scott and Mark Allen. Molina's had a tough year, but he could do okay. With the women, it's a grab bag. You might as well toss a coin. It's going to be tight all the way, and I think the last mile on the run is really going to tell.
You know the competitors exceptionally well. They're all very keen to make a big impression here in Bermuda.
Yes, well, despite the fact that it's a first-year event, everyone's become quite excited by everything that's going on here, including the prize money. There's a lot of money at stake, and I think that and the combination of the field, certainly one of the best in the world and possibly the best in history, will make the win here quite prestigious.
It's shorter than the Ironman, for instance, isn't it? Who will that favour? The sort of sprinter type, really?
Well, most of these athletes have developed talents at both long and short distances. However, Rick Wells has been concentrating solely on the short distance events. Some of the other people may have put in a bit longer mileage for the Ironman coming up in October. However, they're all very strong at this distance.
Okay, CJ, thank you very much indeed. So, as CJ has said, a lot of money at stake here, $100,000 at all. It's just moments to go to the swim. That is going to be absolutely vital. Let's join it. Throughout the night, the triathletes have been desperately preparing themselves for the early start. Because of the hurricane, flights to the island were diverted and cancelled, and bikes and equipment went missing. Mark Allen's bike only turned up at midnight. He was up till 4 adjusting the gears. It's now 6 a.m. as the Bermuda sun starts to rise over the horizon. It's hot and humid. It's going to get worse. The tension has been building all night. The hours of training, the pain, the cramp, the suffering, all of it soon to be tested. Now, 4 years of planning has gone into this first Bermuda triathlon. In addition to those elite competitors that we've already mentioned, there are some 200 triathletes all trying for their own individual goals. It may be a brand new event, but it's already a very prestigious prize for those top performers. At just before 7, with the scorching sun still low in the sky, the men take to the water for the swim. Bermuda's Premier John Swan sets them off into the Atlantic that is today sympathetic after recent more stormy days. Immediately the pack stretch out as New Zealand's Rick Wells shows his power in the water. Just one of the reasons why he won the World Sprint Championships in Perth earlier in the year. But Wells has got some close company. He isn't having things his own way at all, because just behind him 2 men are virtually neck and neck. The American Brett Marshall and Britain's Robin Brew, who was captain of the British Olympic team back in 1984, in 3rd place. And behind them, and making a marvellous start to this triathlon, the 15-year-old from Dallas, Lance Armstrong. Meanwhile, the big 5, Tinley, Scott, Allen, Pigg and Molina wait in the middle of the pack. But Rick Wells is making full use of his best talent. Meantime, back at Princess Bay, the women are all set for their swim. The temperature of the water's gone up to around about 80 degrees, and that is just about perfect. Premier John Swan all set to send them on their way. Don't forget, the women swim the same distance as the men, 1.5 kilometers. And straight into the lead and starting very quickly goes number 62, Annie Jones from the Sunshine State of Florida, obviously determined to make the beach first. But once again, this swim looks tremendously competitive in these early stages. In second place, Australia's Carol Pickard, and on the outside, from Canada, Patricia Punchus. The men by now have reached the first buoy and begin to turn out towards the reef. Now that long surf tail clearly shows the swim doesn't come easily to some of the competitors. The triathletes themselves all have their best disciplines, either swimming, on the bikes or on the road. Of course, there's still a very long way to go. Rick Wells is acknowledged as an outstanding swimmer, but he knows he needs a good lead over the Big Five to take into the bike race. Meanwhile, the Big Five still stalk their prey in that pack. But the New Zealander is taking no prisoners. At the turn, it's Wells, Brew and Marshall now starting to break away. Well, Rick Wells has led from the gun and he seems to be getting stronger and stronger. The leading women have now caught up with the men back markers. And at this stage, it's still Jones, Pickard and Punchus in that order. But the following pack is still well in contention. Back with the men, the second buoy and the turn for home, and the race is really beginning to hot up, with Wells, Brew and Marshall all in a line, having broken away from the main pack. Now, if these three keep up this kind of form, we could be in for an upset here in Bermuda. The swim is the jewel in Wells' triathlon, but can he keep ahead in the battle for the beach? As they approach the finish, there's still very little in it. What a battle we have here. Wells, Brew and Marshall. These three leading, but you can see him there coming up like a train in fourth place, the American Brooks Clark, who earlier this year won the Chicago Triathlon. Well, what a competitive swim it's been. Literally seconds between these first four as they hit the beach after the first of the three disciplines.
Right then, here they come at the end of the swim, and a very close thing indeed. Rick Wells up there, Robin Brew up there, and Scott Marshall too. CJ, what have you made of this?
This is really going to make it a tight race. As you can see, Rick Wells has got several athletes with him, and if they can stay with him, he probably won't get out of sight from the rest of the group that's coming in right now.
What now? What about the next phase, the bike ride? Who are you expecting to come through now?
Well, the bike ride should really set it up for the run. Mark Allen just came in a good time, and he's really close with Dave Scott. And looks like they're going to have to work a little bit to catch Rick, but I don't think it should be too much of a problem. It'll come down to the run, I think.
Okay, it's time for them now to get on their bikes.
And to take us through the 40-kilometre bike ride, here's Phil Liggett.
So, after 18 minutes in the water, they set off for the bike run. Navigating these narrow and twisting roads is going to be lethal. It's getting hotter and more humid, and the drafting judges will be watching every move after recent controversy. It's on the bike ride where all the problems in triathlons emerge. Coming from behind, the riders try to make up time lost in the swim. It seems impossible not to be guilty of drafting at some stage, even if unintentional. It's okay to pass the man in front, but you must do it without taking his slipstream. It's the bicycle ride of all three disciplines that the triathletes see as the most crucial.
Meantime, back at Princess Bay, the first female swimmers approach the beach. Annie Jones from Florida has led this discipline from start to finish, with Carol Pickard right behind her. Jones' time 20.02 compared to Wells' time of 18.34.
Right behind her.
Jones first on the beach, Pickard in fact just 7 seconds behind. And also on the leader's tail, Australia's Kim Hicks and the American Julie Moss. And there's Kirsten Hansen in a good position to strike, followed by Sylviane Punchus. Let's get back to the bikes and Phil Liggett.
And with the men into the 40-kilometre race, Wells and Blue drop back straight away. And this man, Brooks Clark, powers into the lead. In the pack, now following Clark, is where the real battle is taking shape. Mark Allen has slowly moved up the field. And the 15-year-old wonder boy from Dallas, Lance Armstrong, was challenging world champion Mark Allen on the near side. Was Bermuda to be his title? So, as the course winds its way through the plantations, it's Clark, followed by Pigg, Allen and Armstrong. At this point of the course, the downhill sections help create speeds in excess of 40 miles an hour. Clark now approaches the far turn. The riders will double back on themselves, facing riders coming towards them. Another hazard. Clark has seen his rivals pass the other way. He now knows they are closing in on him. Clark must keep ahead at all cost. If he has any chance at all of winning in the run, he knows he must finish clear at this section of Pigg and Allen. Pigg, at 23, the new superstar, has other ideas.
You guys messed everything up, man.
In the women's race, Carol Pickard made her mark on the bike straight away, taking the lead from Emmy Jones. But all eyes were now on this 25-year-old American, Kirsten Hansen, who had rocketed up to the leaders. Can Pickard hold her off? The answer is no. With the American flying, after 8 miles of the bike run, she glides past Pickard. Without her by your lead, 5th out of the water, and now 1st on the road. With the men, Brooks Clark has now covered half of the bike run, but the following pack just won't go away. It's still Allen, Armstrong and Pig who will be first to pounce on Clark. Clark then shows signs of exhaustion. The pain begins to show. The crowds urge him on. He makes the transition area first, but Allen is closing. Having travelled 40 kilometres, they've now got the 10-kilometre run. Clark's time, 54 minutes, 50 seconds, with the three Predators just 10 seconds behind. Mike Pig, though, begins to lose his cool.
Where is Six? Over there. He's pointing to it. Move. Move. Right here. Right here. Hey! Melina, right here. Number 3, man. Number 3. Next is Melina. Right here. My side, Scott. My side. Melina. 50 on the end. Oh, God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grab your bike in your spot, guys. Which way out, Charlie?
Dave Scott and Scott Tinley know by now that this is not going to be their championship.
What about the women then? I think that the first woman is just about due in now. I believe it's Kirsten Hansen. And CJ, that's no real surprise, is it? Because she's really strong on the bike.
No, not at all. Kirsten has had an excellent bike today, and it looks like she's got a 40-second to a minute lead on the rest of the women. Then I think Erin Baker, Carol Pickard, and a couple of the other the American women are chasing right behind her.
Kirsten Hansen had literally clawed her way to the front of the bike run. A second place in Vancouver the week before this race is the only flaw so far in a season that's seen the bubbly born-again Christian win Chicago and Denver, her hometown. Pickard wasn't beaten yet. And nor was Jones. Erin Baker was slowly improving her position, but was it too late? Was Hansen too far in front, and could this be her first defeat in 2 years? The crowds cheered them on, shouting their names as though they'd known them forever. Colleen Cannon put on the pressure, moving into third place with Liz Bowman in second. Like the men's race, this was turning out to be a hell of an event. Before the race started, Hansen had said she'd have to have a really big lead on the bike. She was doing just that. Hammering the opposition, she was first to the transition area, followed by Cannon and Baker. Cannon looked dangerous, but could she close the gap on Hansen before the killer hill to the finish?
Run to your left, to your left. 67.
So as the women leave the transition area, we're back with the men. And Brooks Clark now has a problem. He's being hunted and his pursuer is closing steadily. This man, Mark Allen, now in his shadow and bearing down. And Mark Allen's face says everything. He's absolutely determined to win Bermuda. The months of training, pain and exhaustion are now paying dividends. He's paced himself perfectly. He stalks Clark, and then the greatest triathlete in the world takes his prey. Now it's Allen, Clark and Pig. Clark's beginning to fade fast, and now he's got another problem. Mike Pig appears in his shadow. And behind him, and hanging on really bravely, the 15-year-old Lance Armstrong.
Good man.
Brooks Clark is really feeling the pace here. Looking behind for Mike Pig, it's been a very tough triathlon indeed for Clark. He's slowing all the time, and Mike Pig is closing. Pig getting quicker and quicker, and here he comes. And that's good timing. And the first three change once again. It's now Allen, Pig and Clark. And Mark Allen's now going through the hell of a triathlete. The muscles scream. Every bump in the road reverberates the body like a power hammer. But he fights on. It's now mid-morning in Bermuda. The sun's high in the sky. The men and the women battle it out. Hansen leads the women. Akers third. And Colleen Cannon's up in second place. The organising committee of the race said they had a few surprises for the triathletes, and they weren't kidding. The killer hill that leads up to the finish line was set to sap the very last drop of strength. Could Alan cope with this after 50 kilometres of competition? It's very hot now, way up into the 90s. Pig's looking very tired indeed. The distance between him and Alan has now grown to 1.5 minutes, and Pig's running out of time. The hill's now taking a savage toll on all the competitors, but the crowd are loving every second of it. Halfway up the hill, and don't you worry, it's hurting the leader Mark Allen as well. The roars from the crowd round the finishing line now reach the leaders' ears. Their agony is almost over. Bermuda has turned out in huge numbers to support this great event. They surrounded Princess Bay, they gave the competitors huge encouragement, and now they've packed the finishing area. Mark Allen checks he's a man apart. He's now staked his claim on this championship. Mike Pigg must settle for second place. The last few yards now for Mark Allen. He's home and coasting now. Thumbs up all the way to the line. Behind him at the top of the hill, Mike Pigg has slowed right down. He's practically walking the last few yards. But great stuff from Mark Allen, the 29-year-old Californian. His official winning time, 1 hour 48.42. His split times, 19.17 for the swim, 54.49 for the bike, and 32.54 for the run. And that is an outstanding achievement.
So a great reception here for the winner, Mark Allen, after nearly 2 hours, the greatest triathlete in the world. What a tremendous performance by the man who's unbeaten this year. He had a tremendous run, the man they call the Zen Master, and how fitting it is, the first event here in Bermuda, the first International Triathlete Championships, that Mark Allen, the world's #1, should be the winner.
And in second place, 1.5 minutes behind an exhausted Mike Pigg. His time, 150.18. A 1-2-3 for America. Brooks Clark third in 151.36.
Mark, you've won triathlons all over the world. How high would you put this victory here?
This is the victory of the year for me so far. It's the best field, the hardest course, the hottest weather. To beat all these guys is great.
It was the run, wasn't it, that really sorted everything out? As soon as the run started, you went clear.
Yeah, it was really hot on the run. I think I spread people out.
Why was it so tough?
There's hills everywhere. It's either up or down. It's a good course.
But is this event here to stay? Do you think it's the start of something big?
I hope so. It was a great race.
Now in second place here, I must ask you first of all, when you gave up hope of catching Mark?
I never give up hope. I got screwed up in the transition area. And it slowed me down, so I didn't get to run with him at all. Mark's definitely a faster runner right now. It's just going to take some time. But every race, I never give up hope.
What was the problem in that transition area then?
I parked mine, got there early in the morning, dark, can't see a number, so I parked mine anywhere. Park it, and they say, hey, you got to put it in number 6. So I'm trying to find number 6, and I wasted a little time. But I think things turned out the way they would have turned out anyway today.
And what a great run from England's Glenn Cook, 5th in a field of supreme quality.
Yeah, very pleased in a field like this. I'm over the moon, really.
You must rate this as probably one of your best ever achievements in a triathlon.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I came for the experience, and I certainly got that, and enjoyed myself thoroughly. Very hard work, though.
Back to the ladies, and they're approaching the hill. Hansen still leads, and now it's her turn to feel the pain. Behind her, Cannon and Baker. Colleen Cannon's in second place, a massive 3 minutes adrift of the leader, and that hill's biting. Surely nothing can stop Hansen winning now. But Colleen Cannon has no intentions of quitting at this late stage. Now into third place moves Sylviane Punchus. Patricia's 4th, you just can't separate those twins. Patricia checks her watch. She's barely 20 seconds now behind her sister. But she's got no hope of catching the winner as Kirsten Hansen strides to the line in just over 2 hours.
So here comes the First Lady home, and it's Kirsten Hansen, tremendous athlete. She's taken this sport up full time, lethal on the bike, and Kirsten Hansen wins the women's title here.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
Colleen Cannon comes next. 3 minutes later, a fine effort. Her time, 2 hours, 4 minutes and 42 seconds. And the first of the twins from Canada, it's Sylviane Punchus in third place. And in fourth place, her sister, Patricia Punchus.
Very well done. Another victory for you. How much does it mean that not only have you beaten you almost slaughtered one of the strongest fields around?
It really feels
feels good. I knew we were going to give her a run for her money, and I'm so pleased that a lot of the Americans did.
Tell us the story of the race from your point of view.
The swim was very enjoyable, as clear as it was. I kind of wanted to just take a little scuba dive and look at all the coral and fish, but tomorrow I'll do that. And I was real pleased with how I came out in the swim, up near the lead of a pack of us, although some other girls were way ahead. Felt pretty good on the bike getting out of the transition and immediately moved ahead of all of us that were together there. And it took me a number of miles to catch those lead swimmers. I don't know, probably 6-8 miles. But I just knew I had to really, really go on the bike because there's some really strong runners out there, but I know I can hold my own also. I heard that I had about a 2.5 minute lead off of the bike, so that run was really hard, but praise the Lord, I hung on to it and he just really helped me. I'm just thrilled that I could come here and compete.
But for second place Colleen Cannon, it was the run that made all the difference.
Well, I think I did a pretty good job for myself today. I think I had a really long rest here in Bermuda, and all the people were so supportive along the roads that it really kept me going the whole way. You know, it's like you have to keep your concentration set the whole time, so when people would yell my name, that would just give me a little more boost. Whereas in the longer races, you know, you're out there by yourself, you don't know, you know, it's like, it takes you all day. But here you have to concentrate the whole way and really be aggressive the whole time.
You say you've got a bit of energy left. Do you regret perhaps not putting that energy into the race then?
Well, I didn't know how much I would have for this last hill. You know, I was really concerned about walking. I didn't want to have to walk up the hill, so I did save a bit for the walk up the end, and I feel pretty good.
But a rare defeat for the Kiwi, Erin Baker.
I suffered the whole way. I never felt good. I had a reasonable swim, but after that I wasn't good. But, you know, so that I found the bike really hard, and then I found the run even harder.
Do you just sort of shrug that off as one of those days, or do you look a bit deeper than that now?
No, it's one of those days a little bit easier on me now. I haven't lost in 2.5 years. Now I've lost, thank God. You know, it was about time, and now I can say I'm normal, I'm human, and I can get on with, you know, maybe next week I'd be a lot better.
Now, intermingled with success is exhaustion and pain for the triathletes. It must be one of the most demanding sports anywhere. And if you haven't finished up front, that agony feels that much worse. Bermuda's premier had no doubts about the day's events.
It has to be the most exciting event Bermuda has ever had. We've had a tremendous field of athletes that have really participated not only in the event itself, but as they come in, they're talking about the crowds that greeted them along the way. The weather here has been perfect, and everyone is excited about the event itself. And so we've really had a great morning, triathlon that has stressed and strained the efforts of the athletes themselves. So it's a pleasure to have them. Your team.
Well, quite a few of the latecomers are still coming in, but now it's time to put this International Triathlon Championship into perspective with CJ. CJ, how about Mark Allen first of all? Is he invincible now?
Well, it appears that way. He's had a spectacular race today, especially given the circumstances of it. He lost his bike last night on the way in, and finally got it in the wee hours of the morning. But he had a fantastic race. Came off the bike with Mike and Lance Armstrong and ran down Brooks Clark, and had a really impressive victory here.
How about this 15-year-old? Tell us about him.
Lance Armstrong's really incredible. He's had some great races this year. Has raced wheel for wheel and step for step with Mark Allen on a number of other occasions. Mark's been able to pull it out in the end, but Lance is somebody certainly to watch for in the future.
Some surprise in the women's race that Erin Baker, the Kiwi, didn't do a bit better?
Yes, definitely. Erin's had a good season this year in Europe. She was expected to come here and do extremely well, possibly to have the win, but just wasn't her day. Kirsten Hansen pulled it off, and Erin ended up well back in the field. Aside from that, some other surprises were the Puntus twins. They were expected to run a little bit better here and come out a little bit closer to the top.
But overall, a very big tick for this first international in Bermuda.
Oh, yes, it was an excellent showing for Bermuda, and I think you'll see a great race here back again next year.
But within 15 minutes of Mark Allen crossing the line, there was drama, accusations about that old problem, drafting. The judges met late into the afternoon and then the decision came. 7 men were disqualified, including Scott Molina, Dave Scott and Glenn Cook. The women survived intact.
Now, Tom, you're the race director. You're the man who have made these decisions here. Just tell us your thinking.
The problem was that, in fact, the